And if anyone is in the chat, feel free to shout at me and say, "You're fine," or "We can't hear you," or let me know what's going on. But yes, we do have GJ999 today as my co-commentator.
Hey, thanks for having me.
There's a network error, apparently. I don't know if it is streaming or not, or whether it's just my
Maybe
computer
not.
being terrible. Oh, no, I think we are live now. We are indeed live.
Fantastic.
Okay. Yeah, we are live. Everything's telling me we can hear you. You are indeed live. Good.
Good.
But yeah, we have GJ999 here. He is, you're in, what group are you in? You're also in the KFPL?
Group D.
Sorry?
Group D.
Group D. And how's it going for you thus far?
Yeah, really well so far. I've been a bit lucky in some of my games, and currently just sit just by a hair at the top of Group D.
So that's a strange pronunciation of skillful there. It sounded like you said lucky, but you meant skillful.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that was exactly what I meant. Obviously, just completely outplayed everybody. Obviously.
But yeah, you've also been playing a lot with both Seb and Callum and Tuck from this group. I've been practicing a lot with them, so we thought it'd be good for you to be a co-commentator on this matchup, having played both players' decks quite a few times and know them pretty well at this point.
Oh yeah. We've all been practicing together, so I've become rather familiar with Sredz' decks, considering he's been played by all of them now. So this is going to be interesting.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but well, first things first, so we'll crack on, have a bit of a chat about Callum's decks, though. So first one we have is Logan the Dubious. So I think big thing that everyone will focus on here will probably be the Dark Ember Vault, but just in general, 9 artifacts in the deck, and 4 Mutagenic Serums.
Yeah, just so much rush in this deck as well, right? I mean, all of those just enable you to use creatures, all those artifacts, the 3 Dominator Baubles, the 4 Mutagenic Serums, just using everything that you've got on the board all the time once those are down.
Indeed, yeah, and I think also the things that you have with this is that it's also got really good ways of returning creatures to hand as well. So you've got stuff like you've got the 3 Tempting Offers, you've got, say, Dance of Dooms, a lot of spot removal just across the board with that Gleeful Mayhems, and to an extent, stuff like History Cog. It's not bad at getting damage on things, especially with the Dominator Bauble being able to run things into it. You'll generally be hoping to keep your opponent's side of the board relatively clear and allow you to get that big mutant turns when you're kind of reaping with everything, like your bot Booktons and such.
Yeah, like you say, no board wipe, but lots and lots of like small spot removal here and there. Probably enough to keep your opponent's board pretty clear. And then if your mutants are 2 extra power as well, just being able to fight them into things, particularly that Adaptoid, being able to get a lot of value off that.
Yeah, definitely the Adaptoid. I mean, a lot of enhancements just across the board and a lot of pips in the deck too generally means that you can get pretty big steals off with the Adaptoid, which is going to be very, very good. So,
slightly sad, I think, that the Adaptoid itself is double enhanced with a draw, which is a little bit of a shame almost.
Yeah, a little bit, but I suppose what it does mean is that you can kind of you can draw into more cards on that turn and kind of get big setup for Logo's turns, especially with getting these Mutagenic Serums into play. Means that you can set up those Adaptoid turns for later.
When that dav's down, it's draw 3, so which is just pretty ridiculous by itself.
It is indeed. Okay, so the second deck we'll talk about is Randolph der Giftig Hammer, which I'm reliably informed is Randolph the Poison Hammer, a very cool name for a deck. And this this has recently had a quite big SAS increase. Previous SAS rating was 75, was of course the deck Callum used to qualify for this Keyboard Premier League. Now it's up to 80. Clearly SAS catching up with the shenanigans this deck has been pulling off.
I think it does it a lot more justice at 80, to be honest with you.
It definitely does, yeah.
Yes. So yeah, where to start with this deck? I guess just a lot of creature-based board shenanigans, right? It's those Kirby's doing a lot of work to play out of house actions.
Indeed, yeah, and just like the blistering pace as well. You've got kind of double Igors, you've got Babbling Bibliophiles, you've got Academy Training, which comes up a lot more than you'd expect here. You've then got the Star Alliance, you've got your Kirby's, you've got your Helmsman Spears as well, which a lot of decks doesn't survive very well, but in this deck it's such a target-rich environment where there's so many things you're like, I have to kill that and that and that and that. It lives a lot longer than it probably should.
Yeah, and I think the number of times you have to actually have the spot removal for it as well. I think you normally use as a Kirby to play the fog bank to protect it, potentially bounce some creatures as well, or anything that he thinks might be able to remove it. So like you say, it's one thing I've seen that lives a lot longer, normally a lot more than it would normally would in any other deck,
Indeed.
particularly if you stealth mode it too.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it also like it's just in terms of disruption, you're not really something you'd expect to see from a Starlight's Untamed deck, but stealth modes and fog banks, when this deck is often getting both of those out on a turn, it just means your opponent can have turns where they just can't do anything really, or at least anything that can stop this deck from wanting to do, because it's so fast that it's out racing you most of the time, and you actually really want to be fighting it or using actions to remove these difficult creatures like Commoffs or Kirby's, like Murmooks, and like Hellsman Spears.
Yeah, and I mean, this deck's good job. It is as quick as it is, right? Because I mean, the amber control is not the greatest, shall we say? So I think if Callum sees himself behind in this game, it's probably not going to plan.
I'm just replying to the chat here, apparently some people are trying to trouble
Yeah.
with the audio. But yeah, I think that's the thing with this deck. If this deck kind of gets the pieces out that it needs, it's just going to win games without you being able to do anything about it. You know, it's such a like a punchy deck that unless your opponent draws exactly what you need to stop it, it's just going to run you over in like 6 turns.
Yeah, it's just so fast.
So final deck we'll look at is Allslang Spawn of Sulfurlo. This is like not the most typical of decks for Callum in that it includes Dis, a house that he is vehemently opposed to, but does a lot of the things that Callum does like to do in that it has both library access and battle fleet.
Yeah, and that library access can just fly as well. All right, I mean, I've seen some huge turns on this, particularly when you end up managing to hit something like the Hysteria on the wild wormhole. I've seen some ridiculous turns. The time traveler as well being in there, and then also just being able to battle fleet the turn after.
Yeah,
Be absolutely huge.
yeah, definitely. Also, kind of like being able to wild wormhole into some nice Mars stuff too. So like a soft landing with like a time traveler can do really well, especially if you've already got the help from Future Self. Also, battle fleet, if you've already drawn a lot of Mars cards off your library access, and then you wild wormhole into a battle fleet, you're absolutely laughing.
Oh yeah, particularly being able to positron bolt your own time traveler if you need to help from future self. It too is always option. Or the twin bolt, same
Yeah.
again. Plenty of cards there to do that.
Yeah, and it's also I think the key piece here that you really want to be hitting with it is the Scrambler Storm, in that you can have like a massive board of say logos creatures, a lot of which are useful. Like you've got the Valent Analyst, you've got the Time Traveler, and then just being able to stop your opponent, be able to play any actions to get rid of them, and just like fully taking advantage with even more cards. Generally, like a Mars turn after that.
Yeah, like I say, you can end up with some huge turns in any of the houses, really. I mean, if you can get a big battle fleet off, particularly after the library access, you can end up with some huge Mars. But then also the Arise play with the 8 disc creatures can make some really big disc turns at the end of the end of the match.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you can get like double pit demon with the shackles on the board. You can have your opponent saying, well, you just get basically, even and with a succubus too, you need to get a succubus Shula rather too. You need to get basically 10 amber if your key cost is 6 to even forge a key, because I'm just going to be taking all your amber away at the end of that
Particularly if
turn.
you've cleared the board with a gateway or a hysteria. I mean, it could just be very hard to remove. They haven't got a big board wipe near the end of the round. It's going to be really tough to remove all those creatures. They're all large creatures, apart from the shackles and the succubus. And yeah, it could be really tough to get rid of.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the other bit that I think he's mentioning is very classically anti-Callum, is how anti-Saurian this deck is as well, with both the Guilty Heart and the Hysteria. If you've got Ember on your creatures, it's probably not staying there for long.
No, between like you say, Guilty Hearts, Gateway, double Hysteria. You've got to look at this and think, if you're playing a Saurian deck, it's gonna be a rough time.
Indeed it is. So I think we'll now move on and look at Sredz' decks and see if he is in fact playing a Saurian deck. And the first deck we'll look at, which is Mark's Ratamarket's Pupil, is exactly that.
Yeah, look at that. The one dinosaur that really wants to keep his amber with Primus Unguis. It's I can imagine that not being a favourable matchup, particularly into Aslang.
Definitely not. No, I mean you've got some real speed in this deck. Obviously, speed is 22, and you look at that logo, so you can see exactly why. You've got your daughters, your Tau Vapors, your wild wormholes, your Igors. Got a Desania, which I don't think is too useful in this matchup. I don't think Callum's decks have much archiving across the board, really, but against certain other decks could be incredibly powerful.
Yeah, there's not a huge amount, right? But it does happen. Yeah, I think it does a small amount here or there, depending on if you get some reaps off. But yeah, against a lot of decks, Desania can be absolutely huge.
Yeah. But yeah, this Saurian board, I think the Saurian thing is you see the Primus Unguis and your immediate reaction is, oh god, this Primus Unguis is going to become huge and I'm not going to be able to deal with it, and it's terrifying. And I think while this deck definitely has the capability to do that, it's not like a Primus Unguis deck in that way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's not got amazing ways to protect the Primus necessarily. There's no Ludo to get rid of the Amber if your opponent does just board wipe. You can only scoot on one creature. When with City State, that's not going to do a great deal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's kind of got a lot of ways to get one Ember on a Primus Unguis, but not many ways to get kind of like your 2 or your 5 with, say, a Tribute and those kind of cards that you really can like pump it up into the stratosphere. And
Yeah,
give
I
you...
really do. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go. No, sorry.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I really do wonder with this Saurian House, to be honest, how much of it's going to be used to fuel those. If we look over at the Star Alliance, there's the double Frames Blaster. So I do wonder how much of that might be able to, in a single turn, particularly with the double Kirby's, be able to play a lot of those Saurian actions, just exalt that Frame as much as you possibly can, and then just chuck a blaster on it and take all that Amber into your pool.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the more dangerous in that, you can use the Primus Unguis to make those frames so survivable and then be kind of like pumping more and more Ember onto those frames ready to just get those massive Ember spikes from that. Also just kind of like not the best looking at Ember control stats wise, but with like a CSI and generally going to be looking at a board that's sticking around quite a lot, quad recorders, candle units too, you're just making it really hard for your opponent to forge.
Yeah, definitely. That quadricorder seems really big in this. I think if we see that come and go early, and could be a very big part of this match because no way to recur it. No walls in this deck. No way to grab that quadricorder back. So we've got to wait until it cycles back round.
Okay, we'll now look at the second deck, which is in Thai, but Google Translate informs us that it's the Fluff Librarian. And oof.
Yeah. Oof. I think that sums that one up, right? Yeah. Do we need to say any more?
No, let's move on. Oof is all you need to say. No, I mean, you look at that dis and just die a little bit inside, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you want to play cards? No, you don't get to do that. You play what house I want you to play, and you don't play the cards I don't want you to play.
Yeah. And when you play that house, I'm going to play a Waking Nightmare to make your keys cost even more, and I'm also going to steal your creatures with Lord Invidious and make them dis to make your keys cost even more.
Yeah, and even right down to just like the small bit of having the enhanced creeper and like you said, Lord of Invidious. It's just absolutely disgustingly good. That's I mean, the SAS might tell you that this is the worst of the two decks that we've looked at so far in his lineup, but I wouldn't want to play against this.
Oh no, I would very much not. I'm just trying to find what that creeper is enhanced with.
I believe it's a damage pip.
Is it a damage pip? Okay. It's not the best thing to have an enhancement in the world, but still pretty nice to kind of like just be pipping away with some damage every turn when you're playing Dis. But
yeah, it might do some work, particularly with those marks as well. As soon as you play a mark of Dis, you want to then kill whatever remains on the board of that house. Might be able to do a little, might make the difference. You never know.
Yeah, I mean, and even outside of the Dis, it's just like the shadows equally is like, oh, you want to play some artifacts? Well, it's mine now. And you want to play creatures? Well, they're back in your hand now. You want to put Ember on things? Well, that's in my pool now.
Yeah, then discarding all that with the autos too. It looks incredibly disruptive. This deck, it fully deserves that 16 disruption score.
It definitely does.
It's huge.
And then the Untamed is an interesting one. I think double Reclaim by Nature, and I could probably see that Reclaim by Nature being used to hit your own Fangtooth Cavern relatively often, because you've got such a small creature. You've got 25 effective power in your deck, so very small creatures knocking around here.
That is true. Yeah, I suppose the only thing is if you do play it, you have got that creeper that you can just keep hitting every time you call Dis, which you don't mind seeing come back. But yeah, I could definitely see it being either not played or purged, depending on what the board looks like. A lot of very small creatures.
Yeah, I think it depends on what artifacts your opponent has. Like if your opponent is a relatively artifact light deck, I could definitely see the Reclaim by Nature being used on that. But if it's heavier, if it's got kind of more. Like Stiff say against Logan, I think Reclaim by Nature definitely is going to be having its work cut out, trying to keep a hold of the artifacts down the plane.
Where in the world have we seen a artifact heavy deck recently?
Exactly.
Sure, there's none in this matchup.
It's also just worth noting 19 pips on this deck too. So even though with a speed of only 1.5, you're just going to be playing pips almost every turn and making it so hard for your opponent to deal with your Ember because you can just choose the house they're playing and make sure they're not playing any Ember control.
Oh, and a lot of great utility in this as well. I mean, like the word of returning, I can imagine in a lot of matchups could be very very big.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously you've got board control, the Savage Clash as well. There's a lot of utility in the Untamed between the Reclaims, the Savage Clash, even Song of the Wild if your board actually sticks around, and the word of returning too.
Definitely. And so, last but by no means least, we have Milan al Testa de Festum, which translates to Milan, Elder of the Fortress. Another cool name.
A fantastic name, and another great looking deck. I mean, we thought 19 pips was quite a few. Now we've got 20.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Classic Kota.
Classic Kota. You look at, say, for example, the Shadows where you have 3 ghostly hands. But also just like all the classic Kota cards that you really want to kind of like, you got your Nerve Blast, your Relentless Whispers, Dodgers, Umbras, Urchins. Safe Place can be handy. I mean, kind of not the best artifact control in this deck, so can definitely get some use out of that.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely none across the board, right? So the Safe Place could be pretty big. It's perfectly safe in this game. So
it lives up to the name, yeah. And Color
it does.
Phantom can give you that steal too, by playing an artifact with it. So in 4 artifacts overall in the deck, Color Phantom useful in this deck more than it is in others, I'd say.
Yeah, if it doesn't get removed, and like you say, having that Safe Place in house as well. I think everything else then is outside, but still, that could still make the difference. There's not a huge amount of steal in this shadow. I mean, the ghostly hands don't fire all that often. You just got the Nerve Blast, Relentless Whispers, and the Urchin on the play.
Yeah.
Everything else has got to sit on the board, really.
Yeah, but I mean, whether we don't have that much in shadows, you're making more than making it up for it in the disc. We have 4 Shoelers. So if you're on 9 Ember and you get pretty lucky with those Shoelers, you can definitely take someone back down to 5 just by doing that, which is pretty brutal.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of steel in there. Conditional, sure, but yeah, it'll do a lot of work. I mean, it's almost like your opponent has to go above 4 to win the game. So
yeah,
they're going to be doing some work, I'm sure.
Yeah,
and the Ember Imp as well, just to slow your opponent down.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Ember Imp could be really, really important against some of the decks that Calum's playing, which don't have the best spot removal and really rely on playing a lot of cards in a turn. If you stick with an Ember Imp and just kind of like slow him down, that could be really problematic for him.
Yeah, the same with the Life Ward here. I think you look at a lot of Calum's decks. They all want to play creatures. They all just want to have a board, throw creatures out, and a Life Ward's just going to have a whole turn where maybe he doesn't have the Amber control unless it's on a creature, or can't draw cards with Logan, for example, unless he can play creatures. So that could be huge.
Yep, and then finally you do have this Untamed where it's interesting because you've not got the Hunting Witch, you've not got the Full Moon, so it's not going to be the most kind of bursty of Untamed that you'll ever see. But still, just if you get like just a couple of those things on the board to be like Reaping with the Dew Fairy, doing those kind of things, and then like say you've got like say Nepenthe Seeds to bring stuff back, you're playing that Shoto Hazri, just really use it as a finisher. You can do some brutal things with it.
Oh, for definite, yeah. I think the Nepenthe could be really big in this matchup. Yes, you might see it for the Shoto Hazri. Also, might see it for if he manages to clear the board to Life Ward and then immediately get the Life Ward back to Life Ward a second turn.
Oh god, yeah, I hadn't even thought of that. That is,
yeah, could be really, really nasty. I mean, Curiosity might do some work. I think we've got some amount of Logos as well, so there's probably some scientists that are going to die to that across those decks.
Yeah,
with Logos being in all 3.
We do now have a link to the game, so I'm going to switch over to that now. Let me just join that. Scroll down. And, yep, we're both in the game now, so I'm just going to see, I've been told what's been banned, and we've seen Ulslang and Fluffy have been banned. The first game is going to be between the Hammer and Milan. So we have Sredz on the top of the screen playing Milan al Testa de Festum, and we have Calum on the bottom of the screen playing Randolph der Giftig Hammer.
Yeah, no surprises with the bans, I feel. Looking at the Aslan, you got to think that's bad for the Saurians in Marks, and like you say, Fluffy. I think we all knew his new Callum was probably going to ban that. It was
definitely, yeah.
It's just a horrible deck to play against.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, as I said, it's just kind of the deck that Callum just hates playing against too. in the kind of like mark of disc can be very tilting to anyone, and he was just like, no, don't want that in my life at all. But we do see Callum mulliganing to 5, which not something you generally want to do too much with Randolph. You generally want to be playing a lot of cards, so probably not ideal. Sredz, I'm currently waiting to see if he's going to mulligan or not. But nope, does not. Sticks with the 7, and we're going to see what he plays first and foremost. Going to go with Untamed, just hits down a Snufflegator.
Probably a good thing to have. Deal with something maybe on the Hammer's board as soon as it comes out.
Indeed, yeah. You can see just that Crash Muldoon come in, light the Archons, and a Reap, get a couple of Ember. Not the fastest of starts that probably Callum will be looking for, but, you know, still just getting things set up.
Yeah, none of his big cards, no Kirby's, no actions being played out of house, so not the quickest.
No. We are now seeing some more of this Untamed come down on the board here. So Halakor and a Dew Fairy.
All that stuff we get. It's got so much skirmish now.
With the Wolf, yeah. So
Both of them. It's all the skirmish.
All the skirmish, yeah. And can play something on the other side, that Halakor now. The Halakor will keep it skirmish, but it will start giving skirmish to things. And just go for an attack on the Crush Muldoon. Nesota, they're going to immediately heal that damage. And zap onto the Snufflegator rather than the Halakor. No, it was zap onto the Dew Fairy. I do apologise.
Yes, wouldn't have had enough damage to kill either the other two, I guess, would he? So just decides to go for that. Interesting to see the fight earlier. I'm not sure what he was planning on finishing that off with. But, I mean, lots of ways to heal damage in the Hammer, actually, between the Nurse Soto and, I mean, it's not on the board right now, but I believe he has the Dr. Driscoll too.
He does indeed. I mean, I think maybe just kind of looking to kind of like finish it off later with them. Well, Mimicry in this case is Zap, but maybe had other things in hand too that could have done a bit of damage. I think Relentless Whispers could have been a thing to set up for, potentially, would be my thinking. But we are just going to see Reap up to 5. Unfortunately, can't quite get onto the check for Sredz. But we're going to see Logos hits the Igor. What's going to be discarded here? Oof. Discards the Helmsman Spears in the stealth mode, so must have hit something very good to have got rid of those two. And he's going to play
two big losses in the Hammer.
Yeah, I'm going to play the Cut the Research, but can't get onto check either. So both players on the precipice of forging, but not quite being able to make the jump.
That group think tank now very live against Lights Out to return it.
Yep, I think that's
not so live anymore.
No, and I think that's the thing with you really don't want with the Hammer is you don't want cards that clog up your hand. You don't want to be kind of like having things stuck in your hand because you want to be playing cards so much at this point. So that's going to be a real setback for Callum and really painful. I was going to see the Silent Dagger attached to that Snufflegator. Interesting one to attach to the Snufflegator. You know, you think you want to be fighting more than reaping with the Snufflegator, but I suppose it's you've got to attach it to something.
And also, I mean, it gives you a good excuse to reap with the Snufflegator. It does exactly the same amount of damage it would do fighting anyway. So
very true, very true.
You can, get the Amber instead and still do the damage.
Yeah. And so is Dust Pixie too easy to kill? You don't really want to put it on that because it's just kind of like you rather be able to use the artifact than Quicksand.
Exactly. And Halakor's already a bigger target.
It's going to destroy the Nesota, I suppose. Just playing in that for the Ember there. Unnatural Selection. Unfortunately, not going to kill anything. Sredz' board too narrow to really give the benefit of that. And in Nature's Call, though, got to think going to return Halakor, Snufflegator, maybe the Igor for a bit of card draw, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, he might well do. No, decides to keep it on there. I suppose it's his one bit of Amber control with that Wild Spirit. It's pretty limited anyway. He might just want to keep that on there in case he needs it.
And again, maybe just thinking, I don't know how likely it is to take another Logos turn in the near future. Hasn't played too much yet, so there's a decent chance, but maybe just think he doesn't want it stuck in the hand too much. Wants to kind of like keep his hand free and breezy. I would rather just draw a card normally. And Sredz having a little think here, but he's going to forge the first key with First Blood going to the man from Hamburg.
You haven't seen any disc from him yet. You've got to think he's been... There we go, calling
Speak
a disc
of the devil, in it shall appear. Discards the Gateway to Disc makes a lot of sense. Discards the Tendrils of Pain, though, doesn't want to kill his own Dust Pixie.
Yeah, surprising that, because it would do 4 as well.
Double Shula, then into the Ember Imp. I don't think you said in the deck chat here, the Ember Imp could be really troublesome. And yeah, we are going to see the Igor fight into that immediately. Doesn't even give it a second thought. And then we see Wormhole Technician, Quant, and the group think tank. But Callum does forge keep the start this turn too.
It's a good Logos hand. I mean, that might well have been why Callum decided to leave that Igor on the board, was just to deal with an Ember Imp that might have been played. If which so, great thinking ahead on that one. I mean, and now a hell of a Logos board.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, I think it's a combination of both those things. Yeah, just kind of thinking, well, it's a bit of Ember control if I need it, it's a bit of fighting if I need it, and I'm drawing a card either way. So yeah, definitely very, very good choices made there. I'm just looking in the chat here. We have Mental in the chat, of course, a rival from Group F, so can maybe do a bit of scouting.
Oh, that Lost in the Woods is going to be pretty brutal. I would have thought. Now that Dust Pixie going back in, a Shula as well for the steal.
Yeah, I've got to think maybe Quant and Wormhole Technician would be the two that I'd go for here. Sanitation
I might go for the tank.
I think the thing is that if you use the tank, you're destroying kind of your own stuff there, and I think you can play around the tank too, right? You can kind of shingle your creatures a bit just so it can't get that impact. So I think we'll probably see the Snufflegator on the other side of the Shula here.
You'd have thought so, yeah, just to protect that.
Yeah.
The only thing is, I mean, it can't really protect too much against the tank with that Quantum Finger Trap. Might actually get some use, but I just not so sure that we're gonna see it here. Not worth destroying his own Logos board for a Halakor and a Snufflegator.
Definitely not. We're seeing here that how disruptive that Lost in the Woods was here when another Logos Tome was played and could have really used that Quant and that Wormhole Technician. Relentless Whispers to hit the Babbling Bibliophile.
Oh, nice bit of removal. You've got to think this is the
position Callum double ghostly hand as well. I don't know if Callum will have a response to this. Not the best Ember control in the deck, really.
No, playing from behind, not what he wants to do at all here. And yep, that's it.
Yep,
see the conception.
There it is. Fast first game. It just felt like the unfortunate hammer just didn't quite get going, didn't quite get kind of like the early draws it needed, unfortunately. And Sredz could just kind of dominate as a result of that, and was just constantly like just bouncing any threats that Callum had and slowing him down sufficiently.
Yeah, he just couldn't keep pace at all, could he? I mean, we saw a lot of the key cards discarded there, for one effect or another through the Igor or anything else. But yeah, he just never really got going with the hammer there, and it never fired off further than the first key.
No, it did not. But we are going to be moving straight into the second game. I'm going to assume that Callum's going to switch to a different deck here. I think he's of the school that like you generally prefer to switch after a loss, kind of just keeping your head in the game, just generally finding after I've had a loss, prefer just to kind of switch to something else.
Yeah, I think also for him, Logan's probably a better match into Marks too.
Very true.
He's got a lot of that bounce, a lot of that, removing Ember with Mugs, which I think is great against that Primus, for example, and the Frames.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And he's decided to go first, I believe, in the next match.
Yeah, he has done there. Yes. Okay, I was gonna wait for that next match to be created. But yeah, I think that match was always gonna be difficult. That the deck that Sredz is playing just kind of really had the tools to disrupt the hammer very well. With the stuff like the Ember Imps, the returning to hand, the Lost in the Woods, just was always going to make it really hard for what is deceptively quite a board focused deck to really get its game plan on the road.
Yeah, and I think really it was always going to just be a big race, particularly with the hammer. It was just going to be if he could set up a board before those lights out came out, before the Lost in the Woods came out. He might have been able to get far enough ahead. He'd coped, but
yeah, we're just seeing the game's being remade to get the correct person going first. So we're just going to rejoin, and hopefully this will be the right way around this time. I'll just message you the password as well.
Oh, that'd be perfect. I was just trying to get that.
No worries.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Very welcome. Okay, and we are all here. So yeah, we are going to see Logan the Dubious. Callum has gone for the switch, playing Mark's Ratter Market's Pupil.
I think that's, like I said, that's the right choice. It looks like a better one for the matchup by all means.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think it's very much the deck that can bother Saurians a lot by just kind of returning those cards and just kind of like pushing stuff back to hand and really getting a lot of benefit out of that.
Oh yeah, for certain. I mean, it's got plenty of board control as well. Like we mentioned, lots of spot removal for some of those troublesome.
I think leaving the game again because Sredz was first player again. So
yes, yep, does a little wait.
We will
Soon.
see if we've got any better with this one. Yep, Callum is the first player this time. Here we go.
Perfect.
And we have Callum on the bottom of the screen playing Logan the Dubious, and we have Sredz on the bottom of the screen once again playing Marks, Ratamarket's pupil. And we see. Now, obviously, Callum going to be presumably looking for that Dark Ember Vault in his opening hand, if possible. No artifact control at all in Marks, so if it does get on the board, it's staying there for the long haul.
I think also one big thing for the dab in this, it just makes all of his creatures that much bigger, and all the removal is a lot of the removal is in Marks is damage based, and therefore it's going to struggle to phalanx strike those bigger creatures.
Definitely, and we see that oof from Sredz, clearly not thrilled to see that Dark Ember Vault coming out early, and we are going to see Logos and get that Igor on the field. Let's see what gets discarded by that. Clearly a difficult decision though, taking a little bit of time to decide on which of these 3 cards he wants to go for.
Yeah, maybe seeing some pivotal cards here.
Definitely,
see what comes into the discard pile in a moment.
And we are going to see Wild Wormhole and Information Exchange gone. So 2 Logos cards there going. Double Candle Unit on the board, and Tautau Vapors as well. So
a lot of speed early.
Yeah, reaming through his deck early on.
Masters of
Theory. Not every day you see getting benefit out of that, and plays the bot Bookton to draw a card.
Big old Bookton too.
Yeah, not every day you see a bot Bookton bigger than a candle unit.
And very nice to also see the mutagenic serum there as well. Means that Bookton could be used even if going to any other house.
Definitely could be.
I know a lot of decks you probably wouldn't use a mutagenic serum for 1 Bookton, but there's so many ways in Logan to use it. It could well be the case we just see that get played
the Primus Unguis though. Got to think you're going to ward that and a candle unit. And the Orator Hissero is coming down. Oof. Okay.
Amber on the board.
Yeah, then just cancel.
Interesting if it finds the Bookton.
It would be interesting. I think I'd be surprised. And Chant of Hubris as well, going to make it even bigger. Oh, puts it onto the bot Bookton there.
Then fights it off. I think that's the right play, to be honest. Just reduce the number of mutants that Logan can play any turn is always a good idea.
Definitely is, yeah. The risk here with getting a lot of Ember on the Unguis is you do see cards like Lights Out. You see, not Lights Out, like Tempting Offer, like Mug in Callum's deck. Just have very good ways
of finishing blow.
Yeah, finishing blow too, exactly. Very good ways of dealing with a card like Unguis. And even with that Scoot 'em on, if you get that that Tempting Offer on that Unguis, that all that Ember's going into Callum's pool. Yeah, there we go with a Subtle Auto.
Could see something like that here going into Shadows.
I think definitely could be putting something onto the master plan. Man, I wish I knew what.
I know. I imagine it'll be something quite good here. There's no artifact control, no threat of your opponent using it. So
definitely not. No, and there we see the Tempting Offer. Gonna return the Candle unit. So yeah, clearly doesn't. I think if he'd had a second one, would have definitely gone for that Unguis, but still pretty happy just getting rid of one of those Candle units off the board there.
Just wants to be able to reap at some point.
And also discarded a Comm Officer Kirby with that Subtle Auto as well, which is quite a nice one to hit, really.
It is a big hit.
Especially with Star Alliance being the house chosen by Sredz too. Lieutenant Kurukar here. I don't think this matters too much with the Primus Unguis. I can't see the Primus Unguis being fought off the board either way in this case.
No, it might stop him popping the ward with a creature. Is the only thing I could maybe see.
Very true, very true. And
a lot of efficiency here, some big turns.
Yeah, and this is the thing here. We are just seeing like a very big board being got out by Sredz, and not the best kind of board control in Callum's deck, really. You got a standardized testing, which in this case could hit some relatively high powered things. You get that Kurukar, that Candle unit, and get the ward off the Unguis. Dance of Doom similarly can be used for that, but nothing that just says everything be dead, please.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a real trouble, right? Is not having that absolute board wipe.
I'm seeing
could be problematic with a board building like this.
I'm seeing Dis coming out of Callum though. Master plan to play the Infomorph, gets the damage pip on the Primus Unguis.
Maybe a Dance of Doom.
Yeah. Oh, Soul Keeper here. Now this
Oof,
could,
very nice.
and yep, going to use that
Using
subtle
that
auto
to
to
fight
fight
him.
into something. Yep, first off Safrain, and then destroys the Primus Unguis. Very nice there.
Nice amber burst too. That
Mhm.
was
Now,
fell
and
very
he has
nicely.
the Infernus as well. He's presumably going to get rid of that Primus Unguis and something with an Ember Pip on. Maybe that Imperium, I'd say.
I must admit, I think I'd just go for the 2 Ember Pips. The Unguis is never going to stick to the board in this match.
Very true, very true. And Callum agrees with you there.
Or the other
And the
Infernus
second
too.
Infernus too. Oh,
I think the Stunner and the Wormhole, I'm guessing now, just really hit his Ember.
yeah, I think, yeah. And we see the Stunner and the Unguis there.
Okay, decides to take the Unguis after all.
Yep, and Bonesaw going to fight the first officer Frayne. Clearly concerned about what we were talking about in the deck chat of that Frayne being built up with Ember and that Frayne's Blaster. We haven't seen Saurians coming out though.
That's quite surprising with that. With that kind of Star Alliance board, it must be a really good Saurian hand, I would have thought. Because, I mean, a lot of ability to play with the Tabor, and you never know, there might be another Kirby.
Yeah, either that or maybe like a CSI is what I'm thinking. Could be on the horizon just to kind of like knock Callum off of check and just kind of like spread that Amber out across his board. Would be
I imagine we're going to ward the candle unit. Oh, no. Great.
Oh, unless he
Really banging
has
down lines.
the full Miami and wants to just get rid of this whole disboard, and with the CSI hitting first, 6 creatures on
Could
the
be really
board,
big.
this could be the full Miami. And I think the Jets feeling up by the feel of this. As someone who's played in Miami many times, yep,
Oh, and
there
there
it
it is.
is.
Oh.
Oh,
Well, Callum, as someone who's played you a lot, is very familiar with Miami anyway.
yeah.
So
I've conditioned him to be fine with the Miami, I hope, by this point, but I don't know if that'll be the case. I see a Phalanx Strike just
hits his own pterodactyl.
Yeah, just wanted to get the Ember off it, presumably.
I'm surprised he didn't use it beforehand, to be fair. I'm not sure the damage would really be of any benefit on the dactyl here.
I don't think so. Maybe just been a bit of an ordering issue. Got too excited about
possibly.
playing the Miami. I've been in that situation before, where sometimes you're just like, damn it.
Easy to do.
Yeah, I just want to play it so bad. We're seeing a Vandalize here though, and he's going to get rid of that Daughter. Does have a Ember and a Draw Pip on it too. Tempting Offer. Gonna knock that ward off of the Tabor. Then the Mug. The Mug hit there. Information Officer Grey was hit by the Mug there.
The ward.
So Callum here, like being hit with the CSI, being hit with the full Miami, and it is though just responding quite well to this. You know, kind of got himself back up to 5 Ember straight afterwards, and that's the big Ember control from this deck gone now as well.
He's surviving this, right? This important, I think, for him. I mean, if he can get this board a bit more under control, he's probably in quite a favourable position, I'd have thought.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. Like, if Callum's deck is allowed to flip, which we're now down to 12 cards, we're not far off here, and Sredz hasn't forged the key yet. I think that's when this deck really comes into its own, when you can have all those dominated baubles, all those mutagenic serums, all those things where you can use all your creatures on the board at once. You know, it starts to get really problematic to deal with.
This could be a good Star Alliance turn between. We haven't seen the other Kirby yet. We've still got a Tabor on the board to use something out of house. He's already archived.
Yeah, we do.
Babbling Bibliophile.
Yeah.
As well with the Grey.
He has there. Yep. Well, spotted. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's whether. I don't think there's too many things on the board that you'd be that fussed about using. Like Candle Unit, you don't need to capture Ember at this point. You maybe want to remove a stun from a pterodactyl, but having already put the 8 damage on, I can't think he's counting on using it that much. Plays the Frayne.
I would expect him to capture on the Frayne here. I thought the
so,
Blaster's probably coming.
Indeed, he does. Yeah. And yeah, the Blaster could be big here though, getting Sredz up to 10 Ember. Oh, Phalanx Strike just to take out the Mutant Cutpurse and Exalt onto the Frayne. So gotta be thinking he's
no Blaster yet though.
No Blaster yet, but with 5 cards left in the draw pile, you've got to think it's not too far off.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Callum trying to destroy some of that board. Now I don't think we've seen. Have we seen the Gleeful Mayhem or the? Oh no, he's going Logos.
He's going Logos here. We've not seen the standardized testing yet, which could get rid of quite a few creatures. Oh no, with the
there it is.
Unfortunately, with the Pterodactyl, doesn't get rid of as many as you'd like. He's going to get some damage off with the Bob-Omb.
It might have worked out well though, because he played the Adaptoid first, which I think probably means he drew the standardized testing out off the Adaptoid, and if without the Dactyl, it would have killed the Adaptoid itself.
Yep, and we are seeing these mutagenic serums being played thick and fast. And with the Adaptoid, I think is something you really need to get rid of as soon as possible, because if you can mutagenic serum, play a bunch of enhancements, get some big steal off of that if you're not careful. Callum
I
does
mean,
go.
I'd be interested to see if Sredz recognises that threat. I would expect him to probably phalanx strike it
I
at
think
this
he's
point.
used both his phalanx strikes, hasn't he?
This is there.
It says
Is
two
it
or
just the
three.
two? Or oh, it's only two.
Those are only two,
No,
and
I
he's
think
used
they're a
both of
different
them
deck.
at this point. So possibly regretting using that phalanx strike early on to hit the pterodactyl here, but I
Oh,
suppose just wanted the ember.
I'll be interested to see if he removes it here. Not a lot of great options to fight that the Adaptoid with in Star Alliance at this point, I don't believe.
Definitely not. No. Yeah, no. Maybe just goes with the Kurukar, but then would give Callum an ember with that.
I would have thought we'll see the quadricorder here to put his cost up,
Yeah.
make him forge for the 8, or well, for the 9 even. He'll put his cost up to.
Yeah, now does he have the Freyne's Blaster here? I've got to think he does. Only 5 cards left in the deck. It'd be very unfortunate if he doesn't. But
We've already seen the other Frayne, so he'll get what? A 4 amber, 3 amber off the Frayne and the amber off the Blaster. That'll put him up to check alone.
it would do
It'll
indeed,
be a
yeah.
big swing.
Yep. And then I think if you're doing that, though, you really would be... oh, no, puts the Reaps with the Freyne, having put
Maybe dig in for the Blaster?
Calvin on, drawing something here. And I think this will determine where he captures his ember. He is going to put it on the Freyne. I've got to think he's got the Blaster now, then. Otherwise, you maybe would have put it on something else here. Fights the Kurukar into the Adaptoid, though. That's big.
Really wants rid of that.
Definitely does, yeah. Plays the Nurse Soto to heal the Freyne. Maybe doesn't have it here. Come off the
Thinking he
Kirby.
probably hasn't.
And puts the Imperial Scutum on, though. But
Ooh,
with tempting
okay.
offers, does Callum have any tempting offers left? We've seen two.
Yeah, I don't believe
We've seen 2 of the 3, so has at least 1 left.
7 cards left in draw. He might have it at this point. I'd be expecting a Dis turn, though, to be honest. He hasn't called Dis in a while, so
He's going to go
he's going into Shadows.
I think maybe just thinking that, especially with the tempting offer, though, it will put Sredz onto check if he does it, though. Goes for the mug. What is he
I think to
hitting?
get that 3 amber back, I'd probably do it. He could finishing blow as well as the other thing.
Hits finishing
There we go.
blow.
I'll allow him to play the tempting offer.
It would do, of course. Yes, very well spotted. Yeah, and then we do see the tempting offer here, putting Callum up to check. Sredz off of check. Uses the Bob-Omb. Fights the Candle unit.
Yeah, doesn't want to give him any more cards. That's a big swing of a turn there.
That is huge. Yeah, getting Callum up to 11 here. And not the biggest Ember control in Sredz's deck either. We've said this already in the deck chat. And with that Freyne gone too, you got to think now has definitely drawn that Freyne's Blaster and is head in his hands at this point, thinking 1 turn earlier.
Oh yeah, I mean, and the City State as well. We know we're not going to see that on until the deck flips over, so
Definitely
it's only another turn, but it doesn't help him right now.
No, we saw the information exchange early too off of that Igor, I believe.
Igor.
We are going to see a Freyne come back down, obviously with that tempting offer, capture 1, and I think we'll probably see the Freyne's Blaster here, but a slightly sad Freyne's Blaster. There it is. Oh.
No way to exalt even with the Kirby and the Saurian actions, which is a little sad for him.
Twin Bottle Mission going to take out that Bot Bookton, put a damage on the Kirby, heal it with the Soto, I assume, which he does. Sredz on 10 now as well. Callum about to forge, I would assume, and this could be where he just kind of runs away with this game. Got to think, if he can get to 7 Ember here, not that many ways of responding unless Sredz...
This might well be whoever can get to check first here. I think is just going to be. Neither of them have got great amber control answers left.
Definitely not. No. And gets the is that the that is the quadricorder. So that's quite big actually.
That's very big.
We could see it.
Only paid him the extra 1, but it's important.
We see the Dance of Doom though. He's going to take up both the Nurse Soto and the Kirby, I assume here, which it does. Yep, producing the key.
We haven't seen a Gleeful.
Mindfire. Oh, discards the Phalanx Strike. Gleeful Mayhem. But can't quite get to check. Oh,
clears the board.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing, is that you're making it so much harder for Sredz to get back up to 6 Ember at this point.
If Sredz goes to 6 here, though, I do wonder what Callum's got left.
And to say nothing in the archive, group think tank. I think maybe just playing out some creatures here.
It's looking like it. Looking like he's just going to build a board. Yeah. That's a big turn.
That is a big board, though, and that's a lot to deal with. Does Callum have a way? Of course, the Candle unit can capture 1, so Callum really needs to get up to at least 7 here. Plays the Mutagenic Serum, goes to 6. Munchling, draws a card. Quixo Adventurer. Can't get to 7.
Oh, that's... I mean, at least he's not going to be using that think tank. Like you say, the Candle unit's got to capture 1.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think I still might be tempted to use the think tank here. You know, Reap with a Bibliophile, Reap with a Desania.
and just use it. The only thing is, it'll only kill the quick zone.
It's very true. It's
It
very
won't
true.
even kill the munchling.
And we are going to see logos here. Yeah, I'm going to think Candle Unit used to, yeah, Bibliophile draw 2 cards. Telltale Vapors draw another 2.
I'm wondering what Amber Control Callum's got left. I think he's got a Dominator Bauble with a Capture.
Yeah, I think it's not going to be enough, though. The Infernuses are both gone. I mean, obviously, chance now to get very lucky and redraw one. And there are some picks.
Okay. I think 2 of the Dominator Baubles have Capture, which we haven't seen any of yet.
Oh, very true, very true. So Sredz can only, by the looks of it here, go to 7.
That seems to be the plan. It's going to go to 7, unless there's anything else out of hand here. No, that's it, 7.
Okay, and with the Mutagenic Serum, Callum can use that Munchling out of house. Plays the Infernus.
Oh, that's a draw off the top of the deck. Gets rid of
strike.
And the blaster as well.
Captured the Dominator Ball, but can yeah, definitely can, because you can use that Mutagenic Serum.
Kills the Bibliophile.
The only trouble is
reaping. I wonder if he's got a Logos card to discard. No, he just goes for the Reap.
Goes for the Reap. I suppose forcing Sredz to go back into Logos here.
Probably reasonable chance Sredz might have got his City State back is the only real trouble I can see here.
Yeah.
I mean, he's only on 6 still as well. Like, the Candle Unit can just capture again.
It can do, yeah. And you also have kind of like smaller, like one Ember you can do. You know, you could still got a First Officer's Frame. Potentially could have been redrawn at this point. Information Exchange could have come back. You know, those kind of cards. Yeah, Saurian really not got really not the most Ember controlling house of the 3, which is not something you usually say with only that City State interest to play.
Yeah, that's literally all. I think apart from that, the frames I guess you'd probably describe as the bulk of the Amber control.
But yeah, this game is on a knife edge here, though.
I mean, Sredz could just call Logos again and go to set. Oh, okay. We've got to think the City State then. We've just said that's the only thing.
I think so.
Could otherwise use the Candle Unit. So.
Or to Hisaro could also be used to capture on the Candle Unit, but that seems pretty risky to be doing.
There's a lot of Amber on the board.
Because the other... No, because the Candle Unit would still be next to the same... Yeah, I got to think CSI here. Only thing with the CSI, though, is... Can't then use the Grisk to kill a lot of Callum's creatures. You know, you've got 2 of them with Ember on there. You've already seen one of the Phalanx Strikes is already gone. And I believe, because it was purged, we still do have the second knocking around, though. So maybe we'll see that being used.
Be used to kill the Munchling, maybe, and then or some of the stuff with Amber. I mean, you could also just fight some of these things with Amber, too. If you're going to auto-rate to Hisaro, you might want to just fight with the Think Tank. Take out one of these 2 creatures with Amber, probably the Quick Zone.
Indeed. So, Sredz, I think it puts the Scutum on the Candle Unit. I think then maybe we might see the Orator Hisaro being used at that point to capture with it, which we are now, with that Scutum.
Interesting to see how much you can go up to here, because as you can get high, it could be risky that maybe he's redrawn the finishing blow and might be able to kill something and bounce the Candle Unit.
Definitely, yeah, especially with that Mutagenic Serum as well. Can definitely see that Munchling fighting the Candle Unit and then the finishing blow being used.
Or just attempting offer on that itself to get around the Scutum and then finishing blowing something else, maybe the Think Tank or...
Phalanx Strike, going to take out the Quixo. And interestingly, leaving the Munchling alive.
Oh, so we won't be seeing an Axiom then for certain?
No, and that's it. Sredz sticks on 8, Callum straight into Shadows. Subtle Otto draws a card, discards Igor.
What in the world could he have that's...
Master plan. Maybe just playing it out here.
Potentially.
Mugging twice. Don't think...
Tempting offer with a capture, but that just keeps on the same amount.
Mutagenic Serum. And that's it. Yep, just playing it out. Oh.
What a game. Finishes on 14 Amber as well.
Yeah. And I think it's just I think it seemed like a difficult draw there for Callum, really. Like, just, obviously got the Dark Ember early, but kind of stuff like the Dominator Baubles, having both of them so late for Dis, made it really, really difficult. But
yeah, that was a really, really tough, really, really tough match there. I mean, like I say, so close at the end.
Definitely. You know, I think
I can
it's
believe it.
I think it's the thing of like playing, yeah, playing kind of like faster decks is that they're always going to struggle if the game goes longer. You know, you're generally hoping to win these games by turn 6 or 7. You know, and unfortunately, I think just this Sredz did enough to knock Callum off his game plan, knock Callum off of doing what he needed to do, and yeah, just kind of managed to kind of slowly increment himself up to an Ember amount that kind of didn't have the Ember control to deal with every turn.
Yeah, and he did exactly what we were talking about. I think in the deck chat, and he maintained board control. He kept the mutants off the board. We never really got a big mutagenic serum turn or being able to use the Dominator baubles, partly because they came very very late in the game. But there was never really a great board for Callum to just use.
No, no, exactly. I mean, I think that's the thing that I think Shreds played very well there. You know, I tested that deck a little bit with Callum, and I could never. I just found I was getting myself like run over repeatedly by just kind of like cards being returned to hand and stuff. But I think Shreds was playing around that a lot better than maybe I was in the practice, and kind of like just making sure to use his removal and his board clears a lot more efficiently there. That
Yeah.
really kind of got him the win.
Oh yeah, great play by both of them. To be fair, fantastic game, right down to a knife edge, particularly in the second match. It was just, like I say, we were really just counting down the possible amber answers that both decks had, which isn't exactly exhaustive. So
Exactly, yeah. But yeah, so quite a fast match up there. 2 games didn't take long at all. So unfortunately, I hope you haven't planned your afternoon around this because this is it. But thank you very much, George, for coming along and helping commentate this one. It was really useful insight from someone who's played like both players' decks so much and kind of knows them quite as well. So yeah, it was really helpful.
yeah, thanks for having me on.
Excellent. Well, hopefully we'll have you on again another time. But I have been David, Baron von Fabulous Lark.
And yeah, GJ999, the Manchester Mavericks.
Together we have been Screech B-Bomb, I've decided we should be called. But yeah, this has been Screech B-Bomb Commentaries, bringing you some more KFPL action. We'll be seeing you again this evening as well for your game, in fact, George. It is against...
Kionurst.
How are you feeling about that? Are you feeling ready? Are you feeling pumped?
Great player, great decks. It's gonna be a tough match. So
yeah, well, me and Callum will be commentating that. I think it's 9 o'clock GMT. Correct me if I'm
that
wrong.
sounds about right.
Yep, 9 o'clock GMT tonight. So we'll be seeing you again, and hopefully your games go a little bit better than they did for Callum there.
It's open. Fingers crossed.
Oh, thank you very much, Frank. Thank you very much for listening, everyone, and goodbye.